today we are talking about optimizing brain function through proper nutrition, which, as you will see, is really critical to maintaining overall health, but also your brain function, cognition, memory, and we're going to go through all the details about that. Before I get started, if we can go to the next slide, please. I do want to share that the information that I'll be giving you today is for your consideration and may be subject to change based on individual needs, interests, food preferences, allergies, as well as any medications that you may be taking. So please always consult with your physician or healthcare provider before introducing any of the nutritional supplements that I will be discussing today, as there could potentially be some interactions, contraindications with medications that you may be on. And I will be taking questions, but if we could all please hold off until the very end, that would be great. Okay, so if we could go to the next slide, please. For those of you who've been through the rehabilitation process, if you have sustained a brain injury, you know that nutrition traditionally hasn't been, played a huge role in the rehabilitation process and long-term health care of people with brain injuries. And it's interesting because we know that the brain uses 20% of our daily calories just to function, and it does require specific macro and micronutrients to function optimally. So there's a term that some of you may be familiar with called neuroplasticity. And this is the capacity of the brain to change with learning. And neuroplasticity occurs in the case of brain injuries to compensate for lost functions and to maximize remaining functions. And these changes are associated with learning, and they occur mostly at the neuro connection level between what's called neurons, which are nerve cells in your brain. And people can support neuroplasticity and brain function after injury through nutrition. So that's the really good news here. So what we're going to be doing today on the next slide, specifically, what I'm going to be talking about is benefits of nutrition for acquired brain injury to enhance natural healing potential, to fulfill the higher needs for nutrients that we often have, to balance hormones, which balance our mood, to help increase our energy, to enhance concentration and memory, to replenish nutrients that are often depleted by medication. Nutrition can also help promote good sleep. And ultimately, all of these things that I've just talked about can help us regain control and independence, which is our ultimate goal with rehabilitation after any kind of injury. So I'm going to be discussing all of these things in the presentation today. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Our bodies are amazing machines. Every single day, our bodies are constantly breaking down, rebuilding, repairing, and regenerating themselves. And we do such an efficient job at it that we're completely unaware that our body is constantly doing this all day while we're awake and also while we're sleeping. So we're very, very busy beings. And in addition to constantly renewing and rebuilding, our bodies are constantly working away, especially our nervous system. Our nervous system needs specific nutrients, though, to function really well. And so just to give you some specific examples here, here's a nerve cell. And I want to talk about the specific nutrients that a nerve cell needs. So when your nerve sends an electrical signal, it travels along that kind of long cord there called an axon. And this axon is protected by something called the myelin sheath. And the myelin sheath requires specific nutrients to function properly. Specifically, the myelin sheath needs things called omega-3 fatty acids, which you may have heard about, and we get these from things like fish and nuts. It also needs vitamin B12, which we get from meat, and folic acid, which we get from green leafy vegetables. And it also needs something called lecithin, which we get from eggs. So you want to make sure you have a good supply of all of these in your diet on a regular basis to help protect your nerves in that myelin sheath. So the nerve electrical signal, once it's been sent from one cell, it travels down that axon to something called the synaptic knob. So you can see that there where the little kind of yellow dots are, that's a synaptic knob. And that's where things called neurotransmitters are released to carry the electrical impulse to the next nerve cell. And neurotransmitters are made up of things called amino acids, which we get from protein, as well as certain vitamins and minerals, such as B vitamins, which I'll talk about later, where we get these B vitamins. And if we're missing a nutrient that I've just mentioned from our diets, our nervous system, our nerve cells will be negatively impacted. They're just not going to work optimally. So how well your body, your cells, and your nerves are able to function is directly affected by the foods that you choose to eat every single day. So we really are what we eat. And if we choose to eat poorly, it's reflected in how well we function, our energy levels. But on the opposite side, if we choose to eat well, it's going to really improve how we're functioning every single day. So if we can go to the next slide, please. And this is what's actually kind of frightening. There are a lot of people who are not choosing to eat well for their overall health and brain function. And I just want to give you some examples of some unhealthy food choices that a lot of people make every single day. And these are average intakes that most North Americans eat. So on average, most North Americans are eating 15 pounds of salt every year. That's a lot of salt. And too much salt can contribute to high blood pressure, which is not good. Also, on average, people are eating about 10 pounds of additives every year. So there's about 2,000 different food additives and about 12,000 other chemicals that are used during different stages of food growth, preparation, and storage. And these can be irritating to our nervous system, which can affect our brain function. So we want to try to avoid those food additives as much as possible. People also tend to be eating about 152 pounds of sugar every year. That is far too much sugar to be consuming every day. And sugar can contribute to inflammation in our bodies, in our tissues, including our brains, which is going to negatively impact the function as well. Sugar has also been associated with a depressed immune system, anxiety, hyperactivity, depression, fatigue, and sleep problems. So you really want to minimize as much processed sugar as possible. And I mean, today our diets are really based on convenience, cost, availability, not health, including grains. We tend to be eating about 133 pounds of processed white grains every year, and that also contributes to inflammation in our systems and in our brains. So you want to choose the right foods, and I'm going to be going through that shortly. So a quick look at the next slide of the key essential elements your brain needs, okay, every day. The first one is a healthy digestive system. Sounds a bit odd. I'm going to explain that in a moment. We also need some key vitamins, which I'm going to go through. We also need things called complex carbohydrates. I just mentioned that we eat about 133 pounds of processed grains, so like the white bread, white pasta. You want to be choosing complex carbohydrates. These are whole grain pasta, whole grain breads with lots of fiber in there and nutrients. And I'll go through some examples of that shortly. We also want to make sure we're getting enough healthy, good fats. 60% of our brains are made of fat. So you want to make sure you're eating the right healthy fats to make sure your brain's functioning best as possible. We also need healthy proteins because they make up they break down into amino acids, which then in turn help make those neurotransmitters that I just mentioned a moment ago. Okay. And then I'm going to talk about also foods that you really want to avoid that negatively impact brain function. Okay, so let's get started. There is lots of information to go through today. This slide can be made available to anybody who would like it. So if you want to contact Mary, is that right? If we can contact you, would you be able to send it out to everybody?
Yep, no problem.
Okay, terrific. Thank you so much. Okay, so first and foremost, to take care of your brain health, you want to take care of your digestive system. This might sound a little odd, but it is critical to overall brain function. So the brain, like any other organ, relies on proper absorption of specific nutrients. So next slide, please. When we are a growing fetus in the womb, our nervous and digestive systems are very intimately interconnected. So our nervous system is growing right beside our gut tube. And as they grow, as the fetus is growing and we're growing, the nerve connections are still there. And we have about 100 million neurons in our guts that are constantly communicating with the rest of our body, including our brain. In fact, the nervous and digestive systems are so closely connected that in 1999, Dr. Michael Gershon wrote a book and referred to the gut as our second brain because we have so many neurons in our gut. So we have nervous connections between our brain and our gut. Additionally, we have a hormonal connection between our brains and our guts. And this is through hormones. That's what I'm talking about. The hormonal connection is through serotonin. That's a primary one. About 80% of serotonin, the happy hormone, is located and produced in our guts. So if our guts, our stomachs are not properly functioning, it's going to affect our serotonin, our hormone production and storage. Another gut-brain connection involves the kind and amounts of different bacteria you have in your gut. At any given time, we have between 400 to 600 different types of bacteria in our intestines, in our guts, and we need them for good digestive and immune function. The more good bacteria we have in our guts, the better our overall physical and mental health. I was actually reading an article this morning about healthy gut bacteria and depression. There's a huge link there. So how good bacteria helps influence our brain health and our overall physical health is the more good bacteria you have in your gut, it keeps the bad bacteria at bay. If you don't have enough good bacteria in your guts, it's going to affect bowel function, constipation. And when you are not going to the bathroom regularly, it can actually get a buildup of toxins in your system, which are then reabsorbed into your bloodstream, and it can affect your physical and mental health. And there might be instances where, you know, you've had a good 8 hours sleep, you wake up, but you're feeling tired, you just don't feel well rested. It could be that you've got a lot of toxins floating around your system, and it's affecting your physical and mental energy levels. And it can also contribute to headaches. And there's one toxin in particular, which I always find fascinating, called skatol. And this is formed as a result of putrefaction of protein in our guts. And if it's not removed, it can actually depress the nervous system, which is really quite profound if you think about it. And there's also been a lot of research in the last few years that's discovered that following a head injury, the brain itself becomes inflamed. So the brain becomes inflamed, and then the gut also becomes inflamed. So that's that kind of connection. There's a very strong connection between the gut and the brain. So it makes sense when you have a brain injury that your brain would be inflamed, but most people have never made the connection that your gut becomes inflamed. And when that happens, there's a cyclical process where the gut's inflamed, it then inflames the brain even more. So what you eat, if you have an anti-inflammatory diet to help decrease inflammation in your gut, it can then help decrease inflammation in your brain. So there's a huge gut-brain connection. I hope we've made that one clear. So what you should do to help protect your guts and in turn help your brain function. If we can go to the next slide, please. Here's what you should do. Some suggestions are to take a probiotic. Probiotics are good bacteria that I was just mentioning. We have 400 to 600 different types in our guts. We want to keep our guts filled with good bacteria, keep that good bowel function up, get rid of those toxins. So you can take a probiotic supplement every single day with a minimum of about 8 billion microorganisms. And you want to look for a multi-strain probiotic. Some probiotics only have about 1 or 2 strains. You want to look for one that has 5 or 7 strains. So the more different types, the higher amount of probiotic pill, the better. The next thing you want to do is chew slowly, eat slowly. Okay, so that's going to release burden on your gut and breaking down food. And our food is actually meant to be enjoyed. So slow down, relax. And the more time you take to chew it, the more saliva that is produced, and the more it helps break down food in your mouth that goes down into your stomach, and it just eases burden on your stomach and then into your intestines. And you might want to consider, as much as possible, having raw fruits and vegetables. Raw fruits and vegetables have lots of natural enzymes in them, which also help break down food in your guts. Again, it's just easing burden on your stomach. And your digestive system, your bowels love routine. So as much as possible to help take care of your gut, try and eat at the same times every single day. If it's within an hour or two difference, that's okay, but try and get a good pattern rhythm down, and your gut really responds to that well. And I was saying at the beginning, to have lots of good bacteria in your gut, one of the things you can also do is eat fermented foods, because fermented foods contain this good bacteria that I was talking about. So things like yogurt, Greek yogurt, sauerkraut, kefir are really great sources of bacteria. Kombucha is a drink that you can have as well, just to top up and keep your stomach filled with that good bacteria. Okay, so that's first and foremost, that's the foundation of good health, is having a good, healthy gut, good digestive system. Now let's move on to the key vitamins that our brain needs. Okay, next slide, please. And the essential brain vitamins, first one there you see is vitamin C. So your brain contains the highest amounts of vitamin C in your body, and it's there because it's there to protect your brain. Vitamin C is a very powerful antioxidant, which helps neutralize free radicals. And free radicals are highly unstable molecules that can cause cellular damage, including in the brain. So you want to neutralize those free radicals by having lots of antioxidants like vitamin C. So vitamin C, antioxidants are found in things like tea, dark fruits and vegetables, and they will help neutralize these free radicals. Blueberries and strawberries in particular are really great to also help improve memory and motor skills. So you're going to get a lot of good vitamin C in strawberries and blueberries as well. The next nutrients that you want to look at are B vitamins. So B vitamins feed and regulate the brain and nervous system. They help improve cognitive functioning, emotions, and behavior. They can also help prevent brain shrinkage. But B vitamins are water soluble, which means they pass rapidly out of the body. So even a short-term deficiency of any one of 8 B vitamins can result in a shift in your mood and your thinking. So what do you want to eat? Where are you going to get your vitamin C and your B vitamins? Okay, so next slide, please. I mentioned about dark berries, strawberries, blueberries are a great source, but also for vitamin C, green leafy vegetables or broccoli, red and green peppers are also great sources. We often hear about citrus fruits for vitamin C, but these sources in particular have even more vitamin C in them. For the B vitamins that I just mentioned, you can get those from red meat. You can also get them from lentils, legumes, avocados are wonderful for B vitamins. So those are, you can also consider taking a multivitamin if you don't like any of these foods. You can either take a liquid multivitamin or a capsule form of a multivitamin to ensure you're getting enough vitamin C and B vitamins that you need every single day. Okay, so those are the critical vitamins to support brain function. The next nutrient we need are healthy fats. So I was saying off the top that our brains are 60% made of fat. So you want to keep feeding it the right kinds of healthy fats to keep it working really well. So if we can go on to the next slide, please. The role of healthy fats is that they increase the communication and connection between our brain cells. Healthy fats also help reduce inflammation. Remember how I was saying if you have a brain injury, any kind of trauma to the brain, there's inflammation. Reducing inflammation is really, really important, and that's what omega-3 fatty acids can do. They also help balance blood sugar levels for energy. And healthy fats also help carry really important vitamins through our body, specifically vitamins D, E, K, and A. And good fats also help burn bad fats. So if there's any weight issues, it's great to have some good fats in your system to help maintain a healthy weight. But also fats are what give our foods delicious taste and a sense of satisfaction when we eat them. So they can help reduce cravings and prevent us from overeating. So the best fats for brain health are called essential fatty acids. If we can go to the next slide, please. So here they are. So there's two types of essential fatty acids. On the left, you can see omega-3 fatty acids. On the right, omega-6 fatty acids. So our brains and our bodies do not actually manufacture these fats. Therefore, it is essential that we get them from our foods, hence the name essential fatty acids. So nerve cells in our brains are covered by what's called the myelin sheath that I was just mentioning, and it acts like a layer of insulation. Without it, the transmission of messages would be impossible. And the myelin sheath is made up of about 75% fats. That's another reason why we want to make sure we're getting lots of these good healthy fats in our diet. So omega-3 and omega-6 help strengthen the synapses that I was showing you as well in that diagram at the top. So that's really important when we need these healthy fats as well. So here's some sources of omega-3 healthy fats, things like fish, salmon, mackerel, herring, sardines, anchovies. If you don't like fish, you don't want to eat fish, you can also get them from walnuts or flax seeds, flaxseed oil. Omega-6s are found in also seeds like sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds. So there's some really great sources. So you want to try and eat fish 3 or 4 times a week, and you can be snacking on walnuts or any of those seeds, your favorite seeds that you see there. So those are some really healthy fats for your brain. If we go to the next slide, please. Some other healthy fats for your brain are also called phosphatidylcholine. So this helps make something called acetylcholine, which is a memory neurotransmitter. It's also the building material for nerve cells and receptor sites for neurotransmitters. There's also another healthy fat called phosphatidylserine, and this helps your nerve cells communicate in your brain. So it's really important that we get these as well. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Deficiency in any of these fats can contribute to things like depression, fatigue, memory problems, behavioral problems, learning difficulties. So you can see why it's so critical that we get these healthy fats in our diet. So where else can we get them? If we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so there you go. Fish, as we went over a moment ago, try and eat fish 3 to 4 times a week. The phosphatidylcholine and the phosphatidylserine that I just mentioned, those other healthy fats, you can get those in things like eggs, lean beef, legumes, organ meats. If you like organ meats, so your liver, your kidney, those are also great sources. And snack again on those nuts and seeds. Just keep little baggies in your purse or in your knapsack, on the counter at home, beside your computer when you're working. And a lot of people I know when I work with, though, don't like fish, don't like the taste of it. They just don't make it very often. So this is where you might want to consider taking a fish oil supplement, an omega-3 supplement. What you're looking at taking is 2 to 4 1,000 milligrams of omega-3 oil a day. So again, please consult with your healthcare provider or your physician first, because omega-3s, essential fatty acids, are natural blood thinners. So if you are on any blood thinning medication, there can be a contraindication. So please always check with your physician first. So those are some of the healthy fats that are really important to maintaining brain function. Okay, moving on to the next category, complex carbohydrates. These are really, really important. So these are our brain's preferred fuel source. And when we eat carbohydrates, it turns into glucose, and that's our brain and our body's preferred fuel source. Okay, so we know that glucose uptake in the brain is impaired following an injury to the brain. So you really need to ensure that you're not only getting enough healthy complex carbohydrates, but from really good sources like whole grain breads, whole grain pastas, brown rice. You want to avoid the white stuff because it's had all of the fiber removed. So white pasta, white bread, white rice has had that really essential fiber removed. And that's why you want to choose complex carbohydrates. So here you can see the good ones versus the bad. So the brain uses 20% of our daily calories. 80% of that is the total glucose for energy. The brain, again, needs complex carbohydrates because this, what it does, the fiber and complex carbohydrates slows the release of sugar into our bloodstream, so we get more of a maintained, sustained energy source. When you have the white sources where the fiber has been removed, it gets digested very quickly. It gets into our bloodstream. It causes a blood sugar high, but what goes up must come down. Then we get a blood sugar crash, and then we get those energy crashes. So nice fiber-rich food is going to help sustain our energy levels. And low energy fatigue is often a side effect of having a brain injury. So if we can go on to the next slide, please. When I was talking about those blood sugar raises and then crashes, this is called unstable blood sugar levels. And you get those from skipping meals, eating a lot of sugar, all the white carbohydrates, the white stuff, not getting enough fat and protein in your diet, and consuming a lot of things like coffee, caffeine. When you're tired, you often had a lot of caffeine or pop, the sugar in there to get the blood sugar levels up. But again, you're going to get a crash. So those complex carbohydrates with all the fiber are really, really important. Okay, so we can go on to the next slide here. This is really interesting. Brain injury symptoms. After brain injury, often you get irritability, anxiety, depression, aggression, blurred vision, inability to concentrate, poor memory, mood swings, insomnia, fatigue, dizziness. Unstable blood sugar levels can also cause all of these same symptoms. It's very interesting. So if you have any of these symptoms and you have unstable blood sugar levels, it can actually exacerbate them. So we can go on to the next slide, please. What I wanted to give you is an example of a healthy blood sugar diet versus a bad one. So this particular diet here is healthy, and you're going to get a lot of good complex carbohydrates in your diet. So in the morning, say you have 2 eggs, you're going to be getting those healthy fats in the eggs as well. Spinach has got lots of fiber in it, so you're going to get the complex carbohydrates in the spinach. Also mushrooms, you've got some fiber and some proteins. You're going to get some goat cheese there. So you got some proteins, a nice way to start your day, balance those blood sugars. And then for a snack, instead of maybe having some chocolate or a candy bar, hummus and carrots. So hummus made from chickpeas, lots of fiber, carrots, lots of fiber. For lunch, a nice chicken salad, again, protein in the chicken, and you're going to get some complex carbohydrates in that salad, whether it's a kale salad, a spinach salad again. In the afternoon, almonds, pumpkin seeds, you're getting good protein in there, you're getting healthy fats. You're also getting some fiber to help stabilize those blood sugar levels. And then for dinner, maybe some salmon, again, get those good essential fatty acids in there, some asparagus, and maybe some sweet potatoes, lots of good fiber there as well. And then if you're a little peckish later on after dinner, banana, lots of fiber and some more protein, maybe some yogurt, Greek yogurt. So that's an example of a healthy blood sugar diet. If you go to the next slide, please. This is an unhealthy blood sugar diet. This is where you're going to get the up and down of blood sugars and a lot of energy crashes. So a lot of people in the morning, coffee with lots of milk and sugar in it. That sugar and the caffeine are going to give you that nice energy boost. And then you have a bagel, a white bagel, no fiber in there. It's going to raise your blood sugar so high, and then it's going to crash. And then you're going to be looking for more sugar to get the blood sugar levels up again because you've just crashed. And if you don't have a mid-morning snack, by lunch, you're going to probably be reaching for some refined carbohydrates, very little fiber in there, maybe a can of pop to get your blood sugars back up. And again, it's going to go up fast. But then by mid-afternoon to 3:30, you're going to get those blood sugar crashes again. And maybe you're reaching for another coffee and a chocolate bar. And then for dinner, maybe some white pasta, glass of wine. There's lots of sugar in the wine, lots of sugar in that pasta. And then again, your peckish in the evening, if you go for some kind of ice cream, lots of sugar in there. It's a lot of up and down throughout the day. It's going to contribute to weight gain, poor sleep, and fatigue, a lot of crashes. So if you can look to the other example I gave, try and eat more along those lines with lots of healthy proteins, lots of healthy fats, and lots of fiber in your diet. It'll give you so much more energy throughout the day, and it's a good sustained energy source to your brain. Okay, so I hope I've kind of explained the difference between good carbs, bad carbs there. All right, moving on to the next category of nutrients here. Proteins. So, here we go. Next slide here is just some more examples of fiber-rich complex carbohydrates fruits, vegetables, legumes, lentils, whole grains, brown rice, whole grain pasta, whole grain bread. And again, I said it a couple times, try and avoid the white stuff, white bread, white bagels, white pasta, pizza, white rice, any kind of processed cake, pastry, cookies, anything like that, the ice cream, the donuts, it's just full of sugar, loaded with sugar. So this is where you want to get your good complex carbs on the top and avoid the ones on the bottom there. All right, next slide, we're going on to proteins. So proteins are really, really important. Protein is made up of things called amino acids. There are 22 different amino acids. And when you eat protein, whether it's a piece of fish, whether it's chicken, whether it's a boiled egg, your body's breaking it down, you're digesting it, and you're releasing your protein, breaking it down to amino acids, and then your body reconfigures these amino acids and it links them together into different sequences to make muscle, skin, nails, hair. You also make enzymes for digestion, hormones for your healthy reproductive system, antibodies to support your immune system. They're also required for eye health. They are a key component in red blood cells, and protein can also be converted into energy. But amino acids are also really, really important in making neurotransmitters, which are the brain's chemicals that communicate information throughout our body and throughout our brain. Therefore, a good supply of protein is necessary for nerve brain function. So given all the crucial functions that proteins, amino acids play in our bodies, it's necessary to ensure that you're getting a balance of all amino acids. If we can go on to the next slide, please. Okay, so there's all the different role of protein in our bodies there. And neurotransmitters, you can see how they can help control mood, behavior, sleep, cognitive functioning, and memory. And if we can go on to the next slide, please. A deficiency in protein can lead to things like depression, apathy, lack of motivation, irritability, poor memory, poor concentration, and sleep problems. And if we can go on to the next slide, please. So I was talking about having enough, making sure you're getting enough of a balance of all the amino acids. And it is linked to having a balanced diet. And there are different amino acids. Some are called essential and some are called non-essential amino acids. So the non-essential amino acids means that our bodies are capable of synthesizing certain amino acids from other amino acids. So we don't necessarily have to get these ones from our diet. We can actually manufacture them, and there's 10 of them. But there are amino acids that are called essential, like those essential fatty acids I was talking about, where our bodies don't make them. And there's 9 of those with amino acids. Our bodies need them, and we need to make sure we're getting them from our diet, from our food sources. So if an individual is deficient in certain proteins, certain amino acids, it can make you susceptible to those other symptoms like I was talking about earlier, depression, apathy, and poor memory, poor concentration. And this is what's interesting, is if you're not getting enough of these good amino acids, it can lead to things like low motivation, difficulty engaging, and poor initiation. And just to give you an idea of how this works, if we go on to the next slide, please. So amino acids that are responsible for boosting motivation involves things called tyrosine, which is an amino acid, and it's found in foods like turkey, eggs, and salmon. And it also involves another amino acid called phenylalanine, which is found in oats, fish, and beef. And these are absolutely necessary to produce the hormone adrenaline, which gives us energy, gives us a kind of kick to keep us going, makes us feel alert and motivated. Tyrosine is non-essential. So our bodies can manufacture this if we eat other foods, but phenylalanine is essential, which means we must get it from these foods. So a deficiency in foods like oats, fish, and beef can result in poor motivation. Okay, so hopefully you can see the link there. Tyrosine, the amino acid, plus phenylalanine, the amino acid, can help make adrenaline, which can help us feel motivated, engaged, upbeat, and alert. So if we're missing any of these amino acids from our diet, it's going to affect these ability to be motivated and engaged. And if we can go on to the next slide, please. Amino acids are also critical for good sleep. And for a lot of people following a brain injury, sleep patterns are impacted. And sleep is critical for healing, for cellular regeneration, for repair, overall health and longevity. And a lack of sleep can lead to things like depression, weight gain, anxiety, and fatigue. So to give you an idea of the important role protein and amino acids play in sleep, the amino acids called tryptophan, which is also an essential amino acid and must be consumed through foods like turkey, beef, walnuts, sesame seeds, and almonds, together with the vitamins B6, vitamin C, which I've talked about, folic acid, magnesium, make a hormone called melatonin. And this is the hormone that helps regulate our sleep. So again, if you are missing some of these nutrients, if you're missing, not getting enough tryptophan, the amino acid from these certain protein foods, it can impair your sleep. So what should you do when it comes to protein? How much should you be eating? Where should you be getting? What are healthy sources? If we can go to the next slide, please. There we go. You want to try and have protein at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and maybe 1 or 2 snacks with some protein. So you want to get a protein serving, which is about we all have our own built-in protein meter, which is the palm of our hand without our thumb, without our fingers. That's a protein serving. So you want to have the palm of your hand at breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then maybe a little golf ball size of nuts or seeds for a snack. And here are some really good high quality protein sources. Fish, again, you're going to get those essential fatty acids. Chicken, turkey, nut seeds, nut butters. Quinoa is also a seed. You get some nice protein there. Greek yogurt or yogurt, red meat, of course, but also things like legumes and lentils are sources of protein. Okay, so I've talked a lot about fats, complex carbohydrates, proteins, certain vitamins that you need to help maintain optimal brain function. It's also really, really important that you avoid certain foods. Can be really irritating to the nervous system and can impair brain function. And I talked a little bit about these off the top, and these are food additives. So I think we can go to the next slide, please, there. So food additives, remember I was saying there's thousands of different food additives, and they include things like flavorings, colorings, MSG, preservatives, sulfates, nitrates, BHT is another preservative, aspartame, Splenda, genetically modified organisms, pesticides. These can all lead to agitation, headaches, brain fog. So you really want to avoid additives. And where do you get additives? You get them in processed foods. So the more processed foods you can avoid, the better. You just want to eat clean, eat whole foods. And what I mean by whole foods are foods in their natural packaging. So a banana, an orange, chickpeas, any kind of lentils, just eat whole foods, clean foods, and avoid all of these food additives as much as possible. And I'll tell you, I'm completely, I live by this, because any kind of food additive for me will set off a migraine within 20 minutes. So I have to avoid all of these things. So I stay away from processed foods. And I've had to do it all my life. They really trigger migraine headaches for me and brain fog. So even foods, when I go out to eat and I think they're clean, but maybe they've had some MSG put in there, immediately I'll get a headache. So you have to be really, really careful and just ask if you're eating out, if there's any kind of preservatives or anything put into the food, if you know you're hypersensitive to them like I am. Okay, so if we move on to the next slide, please. This is also really quite interesting. You want to avoid refined processed sugar as much as possible. So like any kind of sugar that you would be adding to tea or coffee, or that you'll find in pop, things like that. So there is some connections or some research that demonstrates that the more sugar you eat and the more weight you gain, it can actually cause brain shrinkage. So eating a diet high in sugar and refined carbohydrates, the white stuff I was talking about earlier, can actually decrease something in your brain called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And this is a chemical that helps your brain to grow and produce brain cells. So the more sugar you eat, this can actually decrease that chemical in your brain, okay? The next thing you want to avoid is trans fats on the next slide there. And these are bad fats. I've talked a lot about good, healthy fats. Trans fats are man-made processed fats. They cause a lot of inflammation in our systems, in our brains, and they can actually displace the good fats that I was talking about from our systems, okay? So that's not a good thing. So trans fats are also referred to as things like hydrogenated fats, partially hydrogenated fats, and they're used to preserve foods. So things like in cakes and cookies, crackers, packaged cereals, salad dressings, pre-made sauces, you're going to get a lot of trans fats because it helps preserve food. So it's great for preserving food, but it does nothing to preserve our own health and our brain health. So avoid bad fats, trans fats, as absolutely as much as possible. Okay, so those are the things you want to avoid. I do want to talk a little bit about some diets, specific diets that can support brain function. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the ketogenic diet. This is a high-fat diet where the body converts fat into energy versus using, I was talking about earlier, our body using glucose as a form of energy. This is where your body converts fat into energy, and it can improve blood sugar levels if it's done properly, and it has shown to be neuroprotective. So some people do like to go on a ketogenic diet following injury. A lot of people I work with, though, find the ketogenic diet very hard to sustain because it's very high in healthy fats and protein, but some people just don't feel well on it. They don't function well. They're very, very tired. And so it could be something you might want to try, but most people I know find it very, very difficult. So you can do a high-fat diet, and any carbohydrates you do eat, you want to make sure that those healthy, high-fiber, complex carbohydrates that I talked about. The next diet that has shown some support for brain functions is intermittent fasting, which is also quite popular. So this is the eating pattern that cycles between periods of fasting and then fasting into eating. So some people choose a 6-hour or an 8-hour window, and that's all they're going to eat, and the rest of it is fasting. And this can improve the brain-derived neurotrophic factor that I just mentioned, that BDNF, and this can help improve neurofunction. Again, some people find this very difficult. For some people, it works really well. They feel energized by it. Other people don't function. They find they're way too tired and they need a more sustained energy source. So having breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. But again, everybody functions differently. I would say try it if you want to try. They have shown some neuroprotective benefits, but it's very individual. So if you're going to do it well. Have some good research into what you're doing to make sure that the foods you are eating, whether it's in a 6 or 8 hour window, are really nutrient dense to give your brain the nutrients that I talked about. Okay. And that is our presentation.